What if I told you that debt collectors aren't even coming after you? They're coming after a legal fiction created in your name. Now, in this video, I'm going to break down the shocking truth about artificial persons, how the Strawman account was created, you dig me, without your full knowledge, and how debt is being attached to a version of you that's not really you. You dig me? Now, I've studied trust law, commercial code, and the origins of a artificial person, and this is the kind of knowledge that the system is afraid to inform people of. Now, before we dive into this video, this is not legal advice. This is not financial advice. You dig what I'm saying? This is only for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your due diligence. I don't want you guys to maneuver through trust, and I want you to maneuver through truth. You dig what I'm saying? We're going to be talking about law-based truths, financial truths, facts that you can look up on your own, my baby. So this is what I'm trying to tell you to do. Everything that I'm talking about, cross-reference it. Don't just believe me. Just go look it up yourself. You feel me? So if you guys can promise me that you're going to do that, then we will be in a good place. Also, number 2, if you're brand new, remember to hit the subscribe button. Remember to hit the like button. You dig what I'm saying? If you hit the like button and the subscribe button, we will be at the top of the algorithm and people can see this information that nobody is talking about. You feel me? So if you guys can make those key promises to me, man, we're going to have a good time. Now, what we're going to be talking about in this video, we're going to be talking about the straw man. You dig what I'm saying? We also going to be talking about why debt is assigned to the straw man, the legal framework that supports this, and we're going to talk about how to separate yourself from the artificial person and how this relates to discharging debt. So make sure you stick around all the way to the end because we're going to be talking about the game that nobody wants to reveal. All right. So let's dive straight in. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what is a straw man. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, a straw man is a legal fiction, essentially a corporate version of you, all right, that essentially was created by the government. Now, obviously, before we dive into that, let me go ahead and tap y'all into probably one of the greatest books that talk about this concept, specifically about the straw man. You can literally go on Amazon, type in Meet Your Straw Man, and you'll literally learn all the secrets about this. So I'm cross-referencing this book here, but I want you guys to go ahead and tap in for yourself. All right, don't just go based off of this YouTube video. Tap in for yourself. Take a look at Meet Your Straw Man yourself. Read it, understand it, overstand it, and this will be able to reveal why we're able to do things like discharge debt, why we're able to do things like get credit. Okay, now we dive into the straw man. In the first part of the book, he breaks down that if nobody has told you that you have a straw man, then this could be a very interesting experience. Okay, so first things first, your straw man was created when you were very young, far too young to know anything about it, but then it was meant to be a secret, as its purpose is to swindle you, and it has been used very effectively to do just that ever since it was created. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to read this part. Let's just go to essentially what is a straw man. A straw man is a fictitious legal entity created with the hope that the child grows up and he will be fooled into believing that he is actually the straw man, which he most definitely is not, and pay all sorts of imaginary costs and liabilities which get attached to the straw man by con artists. The con artist can be the government, whatever the case may be. Now it says, how is the straw man created? Well, the mechanism involves the unnecessary birth certificate, which the parents imagine is about and belongs to their baby, neither of which is actually true. If the baby has been named James and the family's name Martin, then you would expect the birth certificate to have the names James Martin written on it, if that is what is written on it. Then all is well, and it is a genuine birth certificate and nothing more. However, if another name is there, then the document is not a birth certificate, but instead is a creation of a straw man masquerading as James Martin. The alternative entries might be any of the following examples: James Martin, Mr. James Martin, Mr. James, or anything else which is not exactly James Martin. So then it goes on to say, why create a straw man? The answer is in order to charge the straw man imaginary costs, penalties, and fool the human James Martin into paying those amounts. These imaginary charges include income tax, council tax, inheritance tax, capital gains tax, road tax, import tax, value added tax, fuel levy, loan interest, bank charges, and anything else, okay, that full-time professionals can think of and are confident that you will not notice, you never agree to pay or don't need to pay. It also breaks down the definition of legalese, which is a secret language invented to trick you, okay? You got, as you can see, this really dives deep. So I really push anybody to really tap into it. Now, here's the thing I want to really highlight, okay? When it comes to the difference between you and the straw man, your straw man could essentially just, you are James Martin in this case, but your straw man is James Martin in all caps. You dig what I'm saying? Notice how when you put in an application or when you go and apply for a job or you on your W-2, whatever the case may be, it is a all caps name. On your driver's license, it's an all caps name. And that is not you, okay? When you think of a business, how business is structured and what it looks like on a piece of paper, it's in all caps. You dig what I'm saying? ABC LLC is going to be in all caps. You dig what I'm saying? If you type in Bank of America, it's going to be in all caps. But so is your name. Have you ever really truly thought about that? Have you really dived deep and said, you know, why is it like that? And if you wrote your name very different from in all caps and you wrote it in lowercase, that is a different meaning. Okay, we won't dive too deep into that now. Let's talk about the aspect that it's a corporate version of you, because if the business is a corporation and you take your name is now viewed as a corporation, now you fall under the jurisdiction of a corporation. When corporations follow commercial policies and commercial regulations, you did what I'm saying? Corporations can be debtors. Okay, corporations owe debt. Then we talk about the aspect of you having to pay taxes. The only thing that needs to pay taxes is a corporation. So when you hear that taxes is voluntary, it's voluntary to the people who aren't taxpayers, but all businesses are taxpayers. You dig what I'm saying? So if you own the aspect of you being a business or a legal fiction, or that's what a LLC is, a legal fiction. If you are seen in the eyes of the bank or seen in the eyes of the IRS or seen in the eyes of the government, and they're viewing you or treating you like a business when you're actually a natural living, breathing person, they're going to be able to do things like tax you. They're going to be able to do things like have you attend court, right? They're going to do things like have you pay a fine. They're going to do things like have you register your vehicle. And registering a vehicle, you know, if you really tap into it, registering a vehicle is also in the same aspect of you know, moving on a commercial side of driving your vehicle. Because you could argue that the people that should have a driver's license is somebody who's operating within the confines in the business of the United States, who is driving a truck for business purposes, you know what I mean, for a corporation. Let's just go ahead and move on. When you look at your birth certificate, okay, its name is in all caps. Have you ever thought about that? Your ID, your court documents are in all caps, okay? And I want you to understand that it's a artificial person, right? According to UCC 1-201, okay? It says that it's not a living man or woman. So when you look at UCC 1-201, under 27, it says person means an individual, corporation, business trust, estate, trust, partnership, limited liability company, association, joint venture, government, governmental subdivision, agency or instrumentality, public corporation, or any other legal or commercial entity. You dig what I'm saying? So it doesn't say that that is necessarily a natural living, breathing person. So further on to go down, you know, an individual is not the same as a living man or woman. The term individual in legal context can mean a legal person, especially one engaged in commerce. And that's very important to understand, because when you think of commerce, you think of like truly like operating like a sole proprietor instead of like a person. And it's more about, it also is not truly acknowledging you living, you being spiritual, you being a natural being. It's more of a role or a status that you operate within the system. You get what I'm saying? It's more of a role, more of a status, more of a title, as you may think. You know what I mean? And so when you think about how legal fictions dominate the list, like, trusts, LLCs, corporations, estates, agencies, they can be sued, they can enter contracts, they can own property, and they can incur debts. But it's very different from the natural aspect, because natural living, breathing people can't really contract with entities. In a sense, it wouldn't necessarily be an even exchange. So they created this, and this goes hand in hand with this SKV Act. This SKV Act gives them the ability to create an estate in your name if you die. And part of this SKV Act, they also put you in a position of where you are deemed as lost at sea. So if you was deemed as lost at sea, you essentially fall under the jurisdiction of being dead. You get what I'm saying? So it's almost like when you create your birth certificate and you sign over your name, or you get an SSN, that right there essentially puts you in a position of being dead in the eyes of the government, unless you shift the narrative. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay. So because you have this entity, this allows the system to create contracts and debt obligations without your conscious consent. The government can't, and by common law, and people will say, okay, we're sovereign and this, that, and the third. Yes, we are. But if the government views you, or if you believe that you are your all caps name, then now you are maneuvering as a entity that the government can take away your rights. Okay, so the government can enslave living souls, but it can bind artificial persons, like an LLC, like a corporation. It can make them follow specific policies because it's under the jurisdiction of it. Okay, but the government, people will say, well, the government does this and the government does that, and the government keeps us from doing this. They only can do that to anybody who contracts to it. Okay, but if you were moving within the living soul, if you were maneuvering as a natural person, then technically the government can't truly contract with you. This is why they created the Strawman. Okay, all this is explained in the Strawman. Now let's just talk about why the system of debt is assigned to the Strawman. See, banks and agencies don't lend to you, they extend credit to your Strawman. This is why we say that you're the creditor. When you dive into 15 USC 1601, 15 USC 1601, you dive into the definitions and rules of construction. We go to the definition of creditor. It says that the term credit means the right granted by a creditor to a debtor to defer payment of debt or incur debt and defers payment. It says the term creditor only refers to a person who both regularly extends, whether in connection with loans, sales of property, otherwise consumer credit, which is payable by agreement in more than 4 installments, for which the payment of the finance charge is or may be required. So when we dive into, okay, it says the creditor refers to only a person. If I dive into the definition of person, it says the term person means natural person or an organization. Then we dive back and we say, okay, well, damn, what does that mean? Natural person, I know that I'm that. And the organization, what is the organization? The organization means a corporation, government, governmental subdivision, agency, trust, estate, cooperative, association. And this may confuse people, because when we go to UCC 1-201, it says that a person means an individual, corporation, business trust, estate, trust, partnership, limited liability company, joint venture, whatever the case may be, a commercial entity, person, right? But then here it says the term person means a natural person or an organization. So you have to be very strategic, because this is Title 15, specifically talking about consumer credit and under the Truth in Lending Act. And this is UCC 1-201, which is more on the aspect of the commercial code that specifically talks about the general provisions and how the government essentially regulates you through on the commercial side. So it's more on the commercial side, but this is more on the federal side. Okay, now let's go back to where we was at. Okay, so when we come here, And we see that the term person, especially when we're talking about credit, means a natural person or an organization. This is when we dive into them. You are essentially extending credit to yourself. So it comes to a point where you're having a conversation with the creditor and they deny you or whatever the case may be. Essentially, they really can't deny you. And I don't say this so that you could be emotional and you can start getting mad because you got denied, whatever the case may be. You still got to play the game how the game needs to be played, but it's more in the aspect of when you overstand it, okay? Not understand. You don't stand under them. When you overstand it, you actually get put in a position of where now it's more freeing, okay? You can now challenge whether or not they are loaning you money. And if you're challenging whether or not they're loaning you money, that builds up an even better case towards debt discharge, okay? So another thing, your signature creates value, but they attach it to the artificial entity. See, your natural person signature is what creates the obligation, which also creates the extension of the credit. But what they do is they make you the grantor and the surety. The surety now has the obligation to pay the debt or whatever the case may be. And they make it seem like they are the ones extending credit, but you are actually extending credit to yourself. If that makes sense. Okay. Now, this also allows for the enforcement of commercial contracts under admiralty and corporate jurisdiction. Okay. Number 2, and that's why you're always addressed in all caps, because they are not addressing the natural you. Okay. So essentially, they're not suing you. They are suing your avatar. They are suing your strawman. And if you don't separate from it, you stand in its place. So it's a couple ways that you can separate from it, and we're going to talk about it as well. Okay. Before I dive into that, I want to talk about the legal framework as it pertains to your straw man. So number 1, when it comes to the signature creating the value, okay, under UCC 3-401, it gives you the definition of signature, and essentially your signature creates the obligation. One will say, okay, well, if I am, of course, like if I sign something, then I am obligated to it. But if I told you that obligation doesn't necessarily mean that you owe somebody, but the obligation is also a financial asset, you know what I mean? Obligation is also considered money that is owed by the United States, then you would look at obligation very differently, okay? And this is where you can challenge it, okay? And then we dive into UCC 1-103, which talks about common law equity and how it applies to the UCC. So there's certain aspects of the UCC that, it's a gray area, like emotional duress, coercion, different frauds and misrepresentation that may not be highlighted in the UCC. But when you dive into the aspect of, it's saying that under UCC 1-103, that there's going to be some level of equity and some level of common law, no matter what. Okay. So this gives you room to assert your natural rights because of that. And then number 3, under UCC 3-501 and the UCC 3-505, you can use conditional acceptance and notice of dishonor to apply artificial person claims. So now you can start to say, hey, if I am this person, then I will agree to pay. But you have to prove that I'm not a natural person. Okay. And that's something that they cannot prove. It's clear. You can literally show up and prove that you're not a natural person. Okay. They also have to prove that your artificial person wasn't created or whatever the case may be. They also have to prove that you didn't extend credit to yourself. There's so many things that they must prove in order for them to come after you for debt that they claim they owed you. If we go to 12 USC 1431, powers and duties of banks, it breaks down the aspect of banks only can borrow and give securities. So if they only can borrow and give securities, then how can they lend? These are the questions and the things that you start to ask yourself and question, because they'll put you in a position where they'll make you feel stupid for asking them these questions or doing things like discharging debt. Okay. And then we dive into 28 USC 3002, which essentially says that the United States is a federal corporation. Okay. So when you understand that the United States is a corporation, very similar to your straw man, very similar to your LLC, very similar to a trust, a state, whatever the case may be, they also fall under the guidelines of a dead entity as well. They cannot take your rights away from you. They also cannot control you. You only are controlled because you are allowing it. I always tell people, when you start to ask for permission, you are giving the control away. When you start to say, hey, I want to be able to vote, or I want to be able to get credit, or, we should get our reparations, whatever the case may be. Now you're asking for permission, and you ask for permission is literally saying that you don't even have the right at all. So imagine if you lived on your own. I say this all the time. You live on your own and you still call mom and dad to say, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? They now have authority over you. But if you just did it without asking, you would truly understand that you have free will. You would truly understand that you actually are sovereign. You did what I'm saying? It's not that you have to put all these paperworks and this, that, and the third in order to yes, it'll show in a public eye that you are, but you still have to be able to communicate it. If you know exactly who you are, then you can just maneuver and communicate in that aspect. And they will have to treat you as such or prove otherwise, okay? Understand the game is played on paper and the straw man is a pawn. You dig what I'm saying? If you understand that, if you understand that, okay? And obviously go tap into Meet the Straw Man, tap into to books by David E. Robinson, because he'll make the stuff sound so simple, and he'll break it down in the aspect of where you truly will start questioning it. Then you truly understand why we're even on this space of creating content like this. Okay, nobody is talking about this. If you got this far, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Dig what I'm saying? Now let's talk about how to separate yourself from the artificial person. There's a couple ways you can do this, okay? Number one, you can use a trust to operate from the private and not the public. Our last two videos, we talked about how to be able to discharge debt using a trust. We talked about how to be able to create that trust on the private side. We talked about how it correlates and why it's beneficial to use a trust, okay? Because when you're maneuvering through your trust, now you're not maneuvering through your debtor. They're not going to just automatically assume you're the debtor, okay? And then the other way you can do this is you can use language like I'm the authorized officer or the beneficiary of, all caps, Jane Doe. You get what I'm saying? All caps, John Doe. You get what I'm saying? I am in care of this address attached to Jane Doe. You get what I'm saying? When you put that in words and you put that in writing, there's no way that they can say, oh, that's not the case. You would then have to prove it, okay? But it's still up to you to understand exactly what it necessarily means, so that you can be able to pull up laws like UCC 3-401, bring up things like 12 USC 1431, bring up things like 15 USC 1601 under the Truth in Lending Act, to bring up things like that to say, okay, bet if that is not the case, then are you a person according to 15 USC 1601 that extends credit? Are you that? You have to prove that you're natural and you're an organization. And they can't prove that. There's no way that they can prove that. And this is why they get put in a position where they lose. Okay, the people that lose are the people who don't know this. And I get it. It may seem confusing. It may seem like something extravagant. It may seem like something that is just a foreign language. But if you listen and read enough and you do your own due diligence, even if you put down an hour a day to tap into information like this, after the video, you go look up some of these concepts yourself, then it will all make sense. I'm telling you guys this from a more place of empowering yourself. You dig what I'm saying? Now, not only that, but you can sign without prejudice under UCC 1-308 to reserve your rights. Okay? And number 4, you can file affidavits of status. You can do the truths. You can do the notices to correct the record. If you put an affidavit of truth and you say, hey, I'm a living man or woman breathing with legal capacity to be able to communicate and contract with you and make sure that our conversation is moving with honor, then they will have to disprove that, and they couldn't. Okay, so you don't need to destroy the straw man. You just need to stop acting as if you are it. Some people think that, oh, I gotta do this and I gotta do that, and I need to stop being a straw man, or you know what I mean, like I just want to be out the system. No, you just need to know how to benefit from it, because you are the beneficiary. Okay, so let's just talk about how this relates to discharging debt, and we'll just wrap it up here. Okay, number 1, if the straw man created the debt, then the real you can challenge the jurisdiction. That's number 1. Number 2, trust and private contracts can redirect liability and take it out of your straw man's name. Now, no matter what, the straw man is going to be attached to. Don't think of trying to get, I don't want a straw man. No, just think about using it to your benefit. Number 3, you can use things like remittance. You can use things like conditional acceptance. You can use things like a trust assignment to shift the burden, okay? Then also at the same time, using the conditional acceptance to even shift the burden of proof onto them to now prove whatever it is that you're not saying or whatever it is that you're saying. See, a lot of times people think that they have to go ahead and teach them, but no, they don't have to teach them anything. They don't even have to prove anything to them. They just have to have them prove whatever, disprove whatever it is that I'm saying. Okay? And if I go into court of law and I show you, hey, look, I asked them to prove X, Y, and Z, and then I'll agree, and they didn't. Your Honor, why didn't they? Okay? And for my people that say, well, if you're going to move like this, then sovereign, then you can't talk to them like that. Look, you talk to them however you want, man. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there's some things that'll put you in a jurisdiction, but this is why I base things on legal merit. I don't base things off of theoretical things. If you go and you communicate with the and you have the paperwork that backs up your communication, and you are able to state your claim, and you go up there and you say, hey, Your Honor, this is, I asked them to provide X, Y, and Z, and because they didn't provide X, Y, and Z, I told them that I wouldn't pay. When I gave them an unconditional offer, which is a negotiable instrument, when I gave them that and they didn't accept it, I know that under UCC 3-603, that right there put me in a position of the debt being discharged. So can they disprove that for me? Okay. Now, it's not even a conversation of, oh, you need to pay your debt. It's more of a, did you fulfill your obligation as the debt collector? Did you do your duty as the lender, as the financial institution? Okay. Did you or did you not make money already? Are you trying to double collect? Are you trying to get over on this person? Okay. And it cannot be any legal bias if you do it properly, if you have your paperwork in order. Okay. So it's beyond, oh, I know how to do this and I know how to do that, and there's this method, and I'm gonna get lawful money, and I'm gonna do this, that, and a third. No, it's more about you being able to communicate with the debt collector and be able to negotiate, understand the law so that you can't be played with. Because you can do all of these templates and write all these letters, but if they say, oh, well, you can't do that, and you don't know how to fight against that or challenge them against that, then it doesn't matter. If you know how to do a 1099, a coupon remittance, and I sent this letter, I sent that letter, and you said to send this. No, if you don't even understand how it works, it's no point in even doing it. You can know all the methods in the world, but if you don't overstand the law, then yeah, you're going to continue to stand under it. You dig me? Now, another aspect is using the administrative process to make sure you challenge the claim before it's going to court. You want to have remedy, and you want to honestly solve the problem before you get to court. If you have to go to court and solve the problem in court, then yes, that's when you'll fall through those challenges and they'll try to take advantage of you. But if you do this prior, then you can pretty much just bring your evidence and your dispute resolution to court, and you can just communicate how they failed to dispute it. And that right there is a violation within itself. So when you start defending a straw man and start administering your estate, you stop being a debtor and you start acting like the creditor. Okay, now we gotten all the way to the end. They've trained you to think that you're the debtor, but that was never you. Okay, you was never your all caps name. You was never your straw man. That's only a piece of you. That's a entity that was created on your behalf, and you are essentially supposed to be the beneficiary of that and a authorized agent so that you could be able to execute on behalf of that. Okay, there is a benefit in having it. It's not always negative. Okay. Because when you're the beneficiary, you don't necessarily take the brunt of it. You don't have the liability. You just only benefit. Okay. Understand that it was your artificial shadow. Okay. And once you learn how to stand in your natural capacity and take control of the paper, everything changes. Everything is going to come with paperwork. If you write it down and you communicate with them through written form, you can always use this as a record if they try to sue you or if you are ready to sue them. Remember, you have to be the one to take initiation. You have to one to take action. You have to be able to one to know the information, even if you know more than them. Okay? Because yes, most people don't know this information, not even the people that work there. Okay? And they'll never reveal it to you. They're literally trained to not, okay? So if you want to learn more about this, down below I had the complete debt guide. You dig me? Tap in with the complete debt guide. You'll be able to get things like templates, things like conditional acceptance. You'll be able to get things like how to create a trust assignment, how to be able to create a trust, declaration of trust templates. You know what I mean? All the fixings, but specifically for the person who wants to use it as a learning tool, not for a person who's going to just take that, fill in the blanks, and then send it off, right? And hoping something will work. It's for somebody who truly wants to learn. If you don't want to learn, don't get the complete debt guide. Okay, I know it may be a fair price and you're like, okay, bet this is going to change my financial situation, but it probably won't. Okay, you think something like that would just immediately change your financial situation at that price point? I'm trying to tell you, you are hoping. You get what I'm saying? So again, I maneuvered through trust. I maneuvered through truth. You go, you see the truth for yourself. It's only that because I put it together. I took time to put it together and it has true value in it. But if you take it and you couple it with the YouTube videos, it'll all make sense. I do update it regularly and you do become an affiliate. Number two, you want to work with me one-on-one. I don't specifically work with people who want to discharge debt one-on-one, okay? Because of the fact that a lot of people want to, you know, if you have debt that needs to be paid, instead of paying me, go ahead and just pay your debts. You dig what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you, you have to be a person that truly wants to learn this. This is not a set it and forget it type program. Hey, how much can I pay you to discharge my debt? No, go to an attorney, go to a debt consolidation company and you deal with them. And I promise you, they're going to charge you way more than I would. Okay. So again, be smart, be strategic. Watch these YouTube videos if you truly want to do that on a consistent basis and tap into things like the complete debt guide so you can be able to bridge the gap and put those pieces together. But if you're trying to fix your credit, if you're trying to get funding, you're trying to put yourself in a position to grow a credit repair business, tap in with that one-on-one mentorship. Number three, follow me on Instagram at biz.nick. You dig what I'm saying? Not only that, but tap in on Twitch at biz_nick so you can watch these breakdowns live. All right, X questions. And then my last question is, have you ever feel like something wasn't right about the way debt is enforced? Drop a comment. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell, hit the post notifications because it's time to break free from this paper trap. Stop being your straw man. Be you, be the natural person. Start maneuvering in that energy because it's more of an energetic energy. And you'll be able to go far, whether it's on the commerce side, whether it's in life, whether it's in the law side, whatever the case may be. If you know who you are, you can truly break free. Okay? I love you guys. If you got all the way to the end, comment the word discharge, and I'll see you in the next one.